Hi, welcome to this edition of Your Backyard. This is part 3 of the Yapp Trail, and we're going to pick this show up where we ended part 2. We're right at the intersection of the Yapp Trail and the Cobb Trail. So here we go. We've just reached the end of the Yapp Trail. You can see here the Yapp Trail goes off to the right, which is where we came in, and the Cobb Trail, which we did on an earlier show, goes to the left. And we're going to come back and loop around towards Shaker Lane, and then we're going to come out. This is one of the beauties of this trail system that Littleton Conservation Trust has put together, in that they've made a concerted effort to join trails together. And the joining of the Yapp Property, the Cobb Trail, the Morrison Trail, which in turn joins up with Sarah Doublet, has now given us, the residents of Littleton, the Neshoba Woodlands trail system. And that's what we have here. And now we're going to turn around on the Yapp Trail, proceed back, only we're going to go back via the Shaker Lane Trail, and there's lots of neat stuff we're going to see there. I can't get over what a beautiful day this is, what a beautiful piece of property this is. This is classic New England fall. Couldn't ask for a better day. We're on the Shaker Lane Trail. We're starting our loop that's going to take us out to Newtown Road. But I wanted to make mention here, we have an interesting collection of trees that look like they're coalescing. We've got a white pine here, okay, almost tipped over there. Got a white pine here. Have a black birch here that's wrapping itself around what looks like a red oak, looking at the pointed leaf up on top. So red oak, black birch, white pine. Neat. Nice place here you can find along the trail if you need. This is like perfect height for me to just sit down and enjoy the raining of leaves. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful day. As beautiful as the area is here as we're walking, it can be sometimes easy to get, I won't say lost, but let's say temporarily misplaced, okay? And I tend to just be looking all over the place, so it happens to me often. So keep your eyes peeled for the trail blazes or trail markers. On this particular trail, we'll see metal circles of painted yellow. Okay, so keep your eyes open for the trail markers, and that's all you need to do. Well, along the Shaker Lane Trail branch of the property here, here's a beautiful contrast. This is the first white birch I've seen on the property. I suspect there's others, but we have a white birch next to a black birch. And it's a nice contrast visually for the aesthetics, but also for study. It lets you see the lenticels on the black birch, the lenticels on the white birch. You can see the different characteristics of the bark given the age of these trees. These are fairly young trees, but there's really no peeling of the black birch here. And you see the peeling of the white birch starting. Lovely contrast. Let's look for more. Well, this is very interesting. I can't say for sure what this is, but I haven't seen marks like this on other black birch trees, but I don't know if something tried climbing this tree here. The marks are not equally spaced, but but I have to wonder if something tried climbing up this tree. I know we have bobcat in this area. I've seen them in my yard. Very interesting. I'm going to look for these marks on other black birches, but I haven't seen any, but we're going to look. Well, we're reaching another vernal pool area on the Shaker Lane branch of the trail, and we're coming across a nice bridge. And this bridge was built by Brendan Jones, Troop 1 Littleton, Eagle Project, 2015, sponsored by the Cooper Foundation. And it looks like Brendan did a fine job here on this bridge. It looks very sturdy, aesthetically pleasing, and it gets us over this vernal pool, which is dry right now, but I'm sure in the spring it has water flowing under it. Now, I want to mention on this particular walk, we have seen little wildlife. I've heard a few birds. I've seen a couple chipmunks scamper around along the stone walls and other areas, a couple squirrels, but the lack of wildlife is a little disappointing. I'm always looking for birds. I just saw one zoom off right to left, and it certainly isn't because they've all left, okay, because they have not all left. There's still plenty of birds around here now, but I haven't seen any. Now, some of that's attributed to the best time to do bird watching is in the early morning. And despite what Mark and others might think, 9:30 is really not the early morning. I'll actually do probably my best bird watching 6:30 at first light. You'll see a lot of birds, and also at the end of the day. So that might be a reason. So I just wanted to mention that for maybe our next shots of your backyard. Well, in this spirit of fern madness, I found another species of fern which I want to call to your attention. And this species of fern, you'll notice, has the characteristic that the pinna taper. They're small at the top, they grow wider down the base, and then they taper back down as we go near the rhizome. And this identification makes it fairly easy that this is a New York fern. And that's the characteristic of the New York fern. One of the characteristics. Color, size of the pinna is also another characteristic, although as they get bigger, it varies. Now, the way you can easily remember that is people in New York tend to burn the candles at both ends. Okay, so you have the candle burning here and the candle burning here, but it has that symmetric shape of the pinna on each end. Well, look what we have here. We have some princess pine down here. I'm going to pull up a piece of princess pine, and a factoid that I read about, that one of the uses of this princess pine was for flash powder. And if you ground this up, the spores would become very small, and it would be used, flash powder, in photography, old-time photography, where you needed that poof, right, to take a picture of someone. And you may see some of this used in fireworks, things like that, to get an interesting flash that's fairly low volatility. Flash powder, so that's pretty neat. One of the oldest plants related in the lycopods. Well, I've been looking for ferns all through this walk and the previous walk. And one of the ferns I've been looking for is the Massachusetts fern. And I think I've found a Massachusetts fern here. And the Massachusetts fern, this one is near dying, has the characteristic, it's roughly the size, this would grow in generally a mass, and I don't see a mass of them here, but it has the characteristic of the two lower pinnae have a different shape, where they're shorter and they sort of go to the front just a little bit, but that would be characteristic of a Massachusetts fern. I'm not going to take that identification to the bank, but I would bet Mark's paycheck on this being a Massachusetts fern. Okay, now a couple other ferns that I'm looking for here that I found on a previous walk through here. One would be the sensitive fern, and the sensitive fern gets its name not because it's sensitive to if you're yelling at it, but it tends to be the first fern that succumbs to frost. Okay, so I'm looking for sensitive ferns, but I don't see any around here. And another fern that I have seen around here, I just haven't seen it on this walk yet, is the interrupted fern. So between now and us getting back to the car, I'm in search of the interrupted fern. We just heard here and saw a red-bellied woodpecker. Had a fairly raucous call. And I get red-bellied woodpeckers at my suet feeder in my backyard on a fairly regular basis. And they're very vocal, so I know when they're there. And it was nice to see a red-bellied woodpecker in here. It flew right by us, in fact. Now, the red-bellied woodpecker I never saw around here until probably 7-8 years ago, maybe a little more, as they extended their range northward. And their range extension probably occurred as a result of food supply and also weather, but primarily food supplies. I mean, animals will go where the food is. Now, around the time that the red-bellied woodpecker extended its range up here, so did the Carolina wren. I had never seen a Carolina wren around here. I would always see them in Virginia and point south. I'd see them when I go down to my sister's place, but I would never see them here. But now we get Carolina wrens on a regular basis and also red-bellied woodpeckers on a regular basis. Now, there's always a sad part to stories like that, and that is around the time that those birds' ranges extended, a bird that I used to see around here all the time, perched on wires, was the kestrel or sparrowhawk. Beautifully colored small hawk. And their range has now extended, actually is no longer dominant around here. They've actually gone north a little bit. So I would say in the last 10 years we gained the red-bellied woodpecker, we gained the Carolina wren, and we lost the American kestrel. Now over here I'm pleasantly surprised that we've located a couple interesting ferns. First, I want to bring to your attention, and there was a cluster of them over there. This is a sensitive fern. It's yellow because we've already had a frost. But if this was the first frost, this is the one that would have been hit. You can see the pinna, shape of the pinna. Doesn't have that variegation, if you will, of the New York fern. Okay, but this is a sensitive fern. Now another fern that Mark found, because he's into fern madness now, is bright green. Look at how green this fern is. This fern will stay green all through December and sometimes throughout the winter. And this is known as the Christmas fern. This is known as the Christmas fern, and you'll see this used in various displays, Christmas displays, things like that, to get a little greenery. But this is a Christmas fern. And another way you can remember the Christmas fern, the shape of the pinna. I'm going to pick a pinna here. Not a good one. The shape of the pinna here looks a little bit, work with me now, like Santa Claus in the sleigh. Santa Claus to the back in the sleigh, and here's the sleigh, and we call that the Christmas fern. And it'll remain green for the winter, so when you're walking through here or other trails in the winter, you know, be on the lookout. These bright green displays will be Christmas ferns. So kudos to Mark. Well, we're under this red oak. It's a red oak that just had a white-breasted nuthatch fly onto it. Okay, let me move the neck down to talk a little clearer. But what struck my attention was this mushroom growing on the bottom of this tree. I'm not sure what this is. I've got to do some research on what this is. It looks great. It looks great. So I took some pictures of it. We're gonna research what that is and try to work up an answer for you. I'm not sure what it is. Okay, I could have Mark taste it. Okay, so that would at least let us put it in the category of poisonous or not. But right now I'm gonna do the research on it first, and then I'll report back. And something else to point out here is a hole that's developing in this tree here. A little bit of rot, which is never a good thing for a tree. But I'm sure something is going to maybe be living here at some point. Oh, I see this tree is actually split off very low. It has a split in the base of the tree here. Right now it adds to the aesthetic of the tree, but this is generally not a good thing for a tree. You know, it's going to allow the infiltration of water and rot and things like that. Whoa. A bridge that's seen better days. Going off another vernal pool. Well, walking along the Shaker Lane Trail, heading back towards Newtown Road where the car is, I should say the Shaker Lane branch of the Yapp trail system, we come upon the remains of what appears to be a shed, workshop, maybe even a small house where someone stayed. There seems to be some organization here indicating a small foundation. We have here a sink, looks like a double sink. I don't even have a double sink at home. This person had a double sink. There's a Coca-Cola dispenser here. This would certainly aid in helping to date this area, how old this style of Coke is. Over here we have what appears to be a well casing. Looks to be, about 7.5, 8 inches. That's 9 inches, finger to finger, with the screw top. So I'm going to think that's a well casing. There's the remains of various metal paint buckets and whatnot throughout here. A washing machine that's over there is a older washing machine, 1950s, maybe very early 60s vintage, that has the arm in the front to crank it one way or the other. What I've noticed around here, as part of the foundation area is some of this, what was referred to as rotten stone, has a sort of a reddish hue to it. The feldspar and quartz has a little bit of red, and that can be indicative of iron that's in the rock that is bleached out. That's what this is. I see remnants of beds, but it looks more, I mean, it is junk, but it looks a little more organized than someone just brought junk out here and dumped it. It looked like someone actually occupied this area to a degree and then has since left and abandoned all the material. So at some point, litter is litter and junk, and if you wait long enough, they become valuable artifacts that people are afraid to move because they tell something about previous land use. Well, we're getting near the end of the hike. I can hear the cars on Newtown Road, but we did run across these mushrooms that have come up. Again, we had some hard rain yesterday. I did see them here, actually yesterday I was out here for a walk, and here they are again. I'm not sure what type of mushrooms these are, but I thought it made an attractive scene, and I'm gonna look up what they are. Nice forest touch. Well, it wouldn't be complete if we didn't have a shot of this particular rock on this hike. As we've walked through this land here, we've noticed there's lots of rock piles, the result of clearing out fields for some sort of agricultural work. But this particular rock is a glacial erratic, okay? And it wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention that. So we need to remember that in the last, ice was here up till about 12,000 years ago. And a lot of what we see in the topography of the land here, we owe ourselves to glacial deposits and glacial erosion. So I just wanted to mention that we have a sign of the Pleistocene glacier right here in the form of a glacial erratic. And just wanted to mention that to you. Well, this brings us to the end of our hike. We started quite a number of hours ago, about maybe 4.5 hours ago. It's been an absolutely delightful hike. We've seen a variety of vegetation, artifacts, geology, trees. Been a delightful day, beautiful weather, beautiful scenery, beautiful company. I hope that you've enjoyed this edition of Your Backyard. I know I have. I have a number of assignments of things that I need to identify, which I'll certainly get back to you on. I'll remind you, we did not find the elusive interrupted fern, but we'll leave that for another show. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll look for you next time on Your Backyard.